Making a film is a lot of people's dream. Unfortunately, a lot of them think it's impossible to do so. But if you're watching this video, it's because you want to take on the challenge. This is the first step. Understanding that it's possible to create your own film. You don't need to make a full feature film with a Hollywood budget to create something amazing, and you understand that. Now that you've taken the first step into making your own short film, it's time to dive deep in the subject. In this video, we'll talk about every piece of equipment you need to make a compelling film without breaking the bank. Here at Nomad Productions, we've been creating ambitious cinematic projects for the past 3 years now. And we all started at the same place as you, curious to jump into the world of filmmaking. This video will be divided into 5 chapters going into every detail of the tools you need to make your first film. Before we dive into the first chapter, I want to make a point about budget. Making films is super expensive, and you can't expect to use the same tools as what they use for feature films in Hollywood. It's totally possible to make a film for $1,000 or even less, but the more budget you have, the more flexibility you'll have. Most of the movies you watch use cameras that cost upwards of $100,000. And even us at Nomad Productions, we use cameras that cost thousands of dollars. But it doesn't mean that cheap cameras can't give a good result. The first camera I ever got was a Canon SL2 and it cost me $400. And I used it for more than 3 years. And even though it's a cheap camera, I made good quality projects that I'm really proud of with it. And you can do the same. Chances are you already own a camera that can deliver good quality and it's in your pocket. Phones have gotten so good in the past years that a lot of people actually use them for professional filmmaking. Unfortunately, phones lack key features that will help you develop your filmmaking skills, like a detachable lens or manual control. That's why we always recommend beginners to start with an actual camera, whichever one it may be. When choosing your first camera, the 2 biggest factors are your budget and your needs. There are thousands of camera models and finding the right one for you is a difficult task. First off, are you a full-on filmmaker or do you also want to take pictures? Because if you do, buying a hybrid camera like this one might be the best choice for you. Modern mirrorless cameras have incredible video features, but they are somewhat limited compared to cinema cameras. That's why if you just want to take video, looking into an actual cinema camera might be a better option for you. So once you've chosen between a hybrid camera and a cinema camera, it's time to look at the options available in your budget. If you're not a professional and you don't have $5,000 to spend, I would just disregard the new market. I would go into the used market. Now, no matter what your budget is, you need to look at 3 key features that your first camera needs to have. First off, a good 1080p image. 4K and 6K is nice, but you don't need it. And if you don't have a powerful computer, editing your footage will be a nightmare. Just watch YouTube videos about the cameras you're interested in and look at example footage to see if the quality is good enough for you. The second feature is audio input and output. You need a way to plug in your microphone and a headset to monitor the audio. And the last key feature is autofocus. If you don't already have experience shooting video, operating your camera while doing the focus is extremely hard. So even having a basic autofocus system in your camera is really nice. The best advice we can give is to take your time, look at a lot of YouTube videos, and find what's right for your needs. We leave a list of what we think are the best options in the video description. And the 2 last things to look at for your camera are battery and media. You need to make sure that they are easy to find and affordable. Let's jump into the second chapter, which is lenses and filters. When looking at lenses, you might get surprised because they can be as expensive, if not more, as your camera. But it doesn't mean that there aren't good, cheap options. The 2 most important features to look at on a lens are the f-stop and the focal length. The focal length means how zoomed in your lens is, and the f-stop dictates how much light can get in and how out of focus your background can be. Cameras normally come with what's called a kit lens. They are super useful because they can zoom in and out, but they don't give you that shallow depth of field. So with that kit lens, you might also want to get yourself a prime lens. Prime lenses can gather more light and give you that blur background that looks so good. 50mm prime lenses are typically the cheapest, but if you can find a 35mm, that's even better. But a 2-lens kit with a zoom and a prime is typically the best option if you have a low budget. And if you can find a lens with stabilization, it's always good to make those ugly jitters disappear. Now that we're done with lenses, let's move on to filters. There are hundreds of types of filters that exist, but the only one you need to know about is the variable ND filter. If you do some research, you'll understand that the shutter speed in your camera always needs to be at a specific number for the motion blur to be realistic. VNDs are essentially adjustable sunglasses for your cameras that let you keep the right settings while adjusting your exposure. These aren't typically too expensive, so try to at least get a mid-range one to not degrade your camera's image quality. Let's move on to chapter 3, audio. One thing that you'll hear all the time is that good audio is more important than good video. Although an expensive microphone can give you better audio, the most important thing is where you replace the microphone. If you're on a limited budget, I recommend getting an affordable shotgun microphone like this one and working with that. Most people's first thought is to put the microphone on top of the camera, but you'll get much better audio by booming the microphone over your actor. The best way to achieve this is by using a wireless transmitter and receiver, but these can run about $200 to $500. So a much cheaper alternative is just to get a really long audio cable to give some distance between your microphone and camera. I recommend getting a cheap boom pole or monopod to boom your mic over your actors. Just be careful, as someone could trip over the cable or yank it off the camera. The last important thing about audio is that wind can ruin your audio. So make sure you buy a microphone that comes with something called a dead cat, which is like a furry coat that protects your microphone from the wind. Audio is way more complex than that, but these are the basic things that you need to know to get good audio. It's time for chapter 4, support and rigs. Although you can achieve a lot of camera movements just by holding your camera, there's just some things that you can't do without additional support. And obviously the most important tool is a tripod. Although still or stable shots can seem boring, they are extremely important. You can use them to establish a scene or convey a specific feeling. And that's why getting a tripod, or more specifically a fluid head tripod, is very important. As the name says, a fluid head tripod can let you achieve fluid movements. These can get pretty expensive, but you should be able to find some good options in the new market for under $200 and in the used market for even under $100. Please do not buy a photo tripod or a cheap tripod from Best Buy. A fluid head tripod is your best friend for filmmaking. It's also a tool that doesn't evolve much, so you can keep it a very long time. To show you just how useful a tripod really is, we decided to make a micro short film using only a tripod. No camera movement, just pans and tilts. Here's what that looks like. But what if you want to move with your camera? What tools can you use then? There's the gimbal, the dolly, the Steadicam, the Easy Rig, the Ready Rig, but those are all super expensive options. Really, all you need to convey movement in your film is a shoulder rig. There's a slight learning curve to the shoulder rig, but once you know how to use it, you can get smooth, natural movements with it. Just like tripods, shoulder rigs can be expensive, but you should be able to find good options for cheap, or even build your own like this one. And just like every other support system, the shoulder rig can convey a specific feeling through the movements you achieve with it. A shoulder rig is a great option for more fast-paced scenes because they give a slight shake to your image when you move with them. Here's a micro short film we made using just a shoulder rig.
Where's the water bed up to, do you know?
You on water bed?
Yes, I am. How do you do?
Follow me.
Where are you taking me?
You mean?
Are you a student or a teacher?
I'm a student.
Oh, advanced or beginner?
What do I look like?
Well,
We're finally at the last chapter, lighting and diffusion. There's a ton of tools for lighting, from the super cheap to the super expensive. Obviously, you would not use a $2,000 light like this one, but there's a ton of cheaper alternatives. But the cheapest and most versatile type of light you can get is natural light, and you can shape it with one of these. 5-in-1 pop-up reflectors are super cheap and they can add, diffuse, or even remove light. On a sunny day, these reflectors can turn harsh sunlight into nice diffused light. And for more intense or dramatic scenes, they add a lot of contrast. Cob lights, panels, and tubes like these are also great options, especially when you can find them in a kit on sale or used. Of course, you need to understand that hard light needs to be diffused with a softbox or a panel diffuser. Lighting is an art that takes a lot of practice to learn, but it can turn any location into a cinematic masterpiece. Now that you know about all of the tools that you need to make your first film, you're one step closer to making it a reality. We hope that the information given in this video was helpful to you, and we'll leave a list of the best affordable products that we talked about in this video in the video description. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to learn more about filmmaking, tell us what you'd like to see next in the comments below. And until our next video, I'll see you later. Keep good.